The station orbited a quiet moon, far from the main space routes. It was a place of science and exchange, where species from across the galaxy worked together. There were humans, tall insectoids, glowing creatures from the gas worlds, and the Lyral elegant aliens with smooth skin and glowing blue veins. Among the Lyra was Lyra, young and full of energy. She always smiled, always joked, and never took anything too seriously. One afternoon, in the shared dining area, a group of humans sat talking about a strange liquid they used on Earth. They called it clarity serum. They said it helped soldiers focus during stress. Lyra listened with half-interest until one of them laughed and said, "You guys wouldn't survive one drop of it." Lyra raised a brow. "What, this little thing?" She pointed at a small silver vial sitting on the table. It looked harmless, almost pretty. She reached out and held it up in front of everyone. "It smells like berries. Is this supposed to scare me?" "Don't drink it," one human warned, half laughing. "It's not made for aliens." "We don't know what it'll do to you. It'll probably make me smarter," Lyra teased. The others laughed. Someone dared her to take a sip. It wasn't serious, just jokes between coworkers. But Lyra liked dares. Without warning, she uncapped the vial and drank the whole thing in one smooth gulp. Everyone froze. For a moment, nothing happened. Lyra wiped her lips and smiled. "Tastes like sadness and chemicals." They all laughed again, louder this time. Lyra bowed like an actor on a stage and walked away, still grinning. But the smile didn't last long. Within 30 minutes, her heart began to beat faster. Her senses felt sharper. She could hear the distant hum of machines like music. Lights seemed brighter and smells clearer. Then she saw Himnate, a human technician working on a nearby panel. He was quiet, always alone, never laughing like the others. She had seen him before, but never thought much of him. But now, her eyes stayed locked on him. His dark hair, the calm look on his face, the way he fixed the wires with careful fingers, everything about him seemed important. Her chest felt warm. Her hands began to tremble. She told herself it was just the serum. It's just chemicals. She turned and walked away quickly. But even in her room, she couldn't stop thinking about him. That night, she dreamed of him. Not strange or romantic dreams, just peaceful ones. Him walking down the hallway, him sitting alone at lunch, him fixing broken lights. It was like her mind was filled with pieces of him. The next day, she avoided the main hallways. She didn't want to see him again? Not while her thoughts were this confused. But somehow, their paths crossed anyway. He was coming from the engine room, carrying tools. She almost turned back, but it was too late. He noticed her and gave a small nod. "Morning." I stared at him. Her throat felt tight. "Ah, yes, morning." He paused, then smiled gently. "Are you feeling all right?" She blinked. "Why, you're red, or whatever your version of red is." Lyra laughed nervously. "Just tired. Too much serum." He gave her a curious look. "I drank it." "Stupid dare." "You shouldn't have done that," he said softly. "It wasn't made for your biology." She shrugged. "I'm still alive, still. Should get checked." She nodded, then walked away, heart pounding again. By evening, she was pacing. In her room, why couldn't she stop thinking about him? It had to be the serum. Her species didn't form crushes or bonds like humans did, at least not this fast. Something was wrong. The next morning, she went to the Human Science Division. "I need to know what was in that serum," she said to the chief scientist. The woman frowned. "You took it?" "Yes, please." "Tell me what it does." The scientist pulled up a file. "It's designed for human soldiers. During high stress, it sharpens focus and forms temporary emotional bonds, mostly for teamwork in dangerous missions. It links brain patterns for a short time. In humans, it fades." Lyra leaned forward. "What happens if a non-human takes it?" "We've never tested that. Your neural system is completely different. The bonding could be unstable, or permanent, or emotional in ways we don't understand." Lyra's hands tightened. So this feeling, this pull toward a human could be real? Yes. Or your brain is reacting like it would to trauma. Emotional confusion, obsession, it's dangerous either way. She left the lab without another word. Later that day, she saw Nate again. He was working on a broken console near the greenhouse. She stood watching him for too long. He looked up and tilted his head. "Are you following me?" "Maybe," she said quietly. He laughed. It was soft, almost kind. "I don't mind." "You don't?" "No, you're different." She sat beside him on the bench, unsure what to say next. They sat in silence for a while. "Do you think it's the serum?" she asked suddenly. He thought for a moment. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe we would have ended up talking anyway. She didn't know how to answer. She just looked at him and felt that strange warmth again. It didn't scare her this time. Confused her. But it didn't scare her. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra started to wonder, what if this wasn't just the serum? What if it was the beginning of something real? Lyra tried to return to normal. She joined her usual work group, helped with station repairs, and even joked during meetings. But inside, everything felt different. Every time someone laughed, she thought of Nate's quiet smile. Every time she heard footsteps, she wondered if it was him. She hated how often she looked toward the human section of the station. It wasn't like her to get distracted. She had always been focused, sharp, and in control. But now, control felt like a distant thing. She sat alone in the observation dome, staring out at the stars. They used to calm her. Not anymore. The stars only made her feel small in Nate's. Memory kept growing bigger inside her head. She sighed and whispered, "This is not me." But the feeling didn't go away. Later that day, she walked into the supply room to pick up some tools. She didn't expect Nate to be there. He stood at the back, checking inventory. His back was turned. She almost walked away.
"Hey, buddy here."
The door opened and turned around. "Oh," he said with a smile. "Hey!" "Hi," she replied quickly, then looked at the floor. He closed the tablet he was using. "Need something? Just tools? A scanner?" "I'll grab it for you," he said. As he moved past her, their hands brushed. It was such a small touch, but Lyra felt like her skin burned. Nate noticed her flinch. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. Double quotes, "Yes," she said, a little too fast. "Just thinking." He handed her the scanner, then paused. "Do you want to sit for a bit?" Lyra blinked. "Here," he chuckled. "There's a bench in the hallway. I was just heading out anyway." They walked together in silence. They reached the hallway. They sat down. The bench was cold, and the station lights hummed softly above them. "You've been quiet lately," Nate said after a moment. "I've been thinking," she answered. "About the serum?" "Yes, and about you." Nate didn't laugh. He didn't joke. Instead, he looked at her with calm eyes. "What about me?" Lyra felt her voice shake. "Ever since that day, I see you everywhere. Even when you're not there." Nate nodded slowly. "I've felt something too." She looked at him, surprised. "I don't know what it means," he said. "But I don't think it's just the serum." They sat in silence again. This time it felt different. Like the silence was speaking for them. The next few days, Lyra found herself drawn to him more and more. She didn't force it. It just happened. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they walked the station together without saying much. But each time she was near him, her mind felt clearer. She started skipping group meals to sit near the human engineering lab, where Nate worked. She told herself it was just curiosity, just leftover side effects. But deep down, she knew better. One evening, while checking cables in the comms room, she heard a soft voice behind her. "You know, Nate said you're becoming part of the crew." She smiled. "I thought I already was." "You are," he said. "But now it feels different, like you belong here." She didn't know how to answer. Instead, she said, "I've never felt this way before." Nate nodded. "Same here." "Me too." "You think something's wrong with us?" "I don't think so. Maybe it's just new." That word stayed in Lyra's mind the whole night. But not everyone on the station saw things the same way. The next morning, Commander Beller, a stern alien officer from the station's diplomatic council, called Lyra into his office. His face was unreadable. "We've noticed your closeness with the human technician," he said. Lyra crossed her arms. "Is that a problem?" "It could be. Emotional connections between species can lead to misunderstandings, conflict, especially if one side misreads the other's intent." "Are you saying I'm not in control? I'm saying it's a concern?" "For both of you," Lyra stood up. "Then be concerned. But I won't avoid someone just because others feel uncomfortable." She left the office with her heart pounding. That night, she found Nate fixing a panel near the life support core. He looked up and saw her face. "Bad day?" Told me to stay away from you." He frowned. "Why?" "Because I'm not supposed to feel this, and neither are you." Nate sat down and patted the floor next to him. Lyra joined him. "Do you want to stop talking to me?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "No, then don't." "What if it's just the serum? What if this isn't real?" Nate thought for a long time. Then he said, "Real or not, when I see you, my day gets better. When you leave, I feel like something's missing. Maybe that's simple. Maybe it's not, but it matters." Lyra looked at him. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "You matter to me too." They didn't touch. They didn't say anything more. They just sat side by side, the soft sound of machines humming around them. For Lyra, it still felt confusing. For Nate, it still felt uncertain. But both of them knew something had started, and no matter how it began, neither of them wanted it to end. Lyra's mind stayed full of thoughts she couldn't control. She had spent most of her life training her brain to focus, to stay sharp in any situation. But now, every time she closed her eyes, she saw Nate. Not in dramatic ways. It's just him smiling. Working, walking. It made her feel something new, something she didn't even have a name for. She started studying human emotions. She read about friendship, connection, and even love. Some of the words confused her. Others made her heart beat faster. She wondered, was she feeling something that humans called love? It sounded too big, too strong, too fast. But the way Nate made her feel, it didn't feel small. One afternoon, Lyra went to the human medical unit. She met Dr. Ellen, a kind woman with silver hair and soft eyes. "I took the clarity serum," Lyra said. Dr. Ellen raised her eyebrows. "You drank it?" "As a joke," Lyra said quietly. "Oh, I can't stop thinking about someone. A human, doctor." Ellen didn't laugh. Instead, she looked thoughtful. "Do you know what the serum was made for?" "Yes, to build quick bonds in battle, for teamwork." "Correct, doctor?" Ellen nodded. "What?" "But it does more. It links the brain's emotional response to the closest familiar presence. In human soldiers, it fades within hours. But in alien biology, especially yours, it might behave differently." "How differently?" "It might build something strong. Not just focus. Something like attachment. Maybe even obsession." Lyra's heart dropped. "So what I feel, it's not real?" "I didn't say that, doctor," Ellen replied. "It's real to your mind and body. But it may have started with chemistry, not choice. Can it be undone?" Dr. Ellen paused. "Maybe, but it's risky. We'd have to disrupt your emotional center. You might lose more than just this connection." Lyra looked down. She didn't speak for a long time. "You care about him, doctor?" Ellen said gently. Lyra nodded. "Yes, then maybe the question isn't what started it. Maybe the question is, what do you want to do with it?" Lyra left the lab with heavy steps. That evening, she found Nate fixing a food processor in the common kitchen. The room was empty except for a few quiet machines. She leaned against the doorway. "You know," she said, "our food system is less dramatic." Nate looked up and smiled. "Yeah, but your food tastes like rubber." She laughed. "Nice." She walked over and sat on the counter. "I talked to a doctor." He stood, wiping his hands. "Yeah, about the serum, about us." He looked at her, his face calm. "And they said the serum may have started this. The feelings, the bond." Nate nodded slowly. "Makes sense?" They also said it could be undone, but it might hurt. He stayed quiet. She looked into his eyes. Do you think this is just the serum? He took a breath. Maybe it was. In the beginning, but not now. Not for me. Lyra felt something inside her soften. When I first noticed you, he said, you were making fun of our food. Then you drank something dangerous like it was water. I thought, this alien is wild. But now, when I see you, I feel steady. I want to be near you. Not because of some serum, because of you. She swallowed hard. What if I feel the same? Then we figure it out together. The kitchen lights flickered once. Nate laughed. Great. Another broken system. Need help. Only if you promise not to drink anything strange this time. They fixed the lights side by side. They didn't talk much after that, but it didn't feel empty. The silence felt full. It was full of thoughts, feelings, hopes over the next few days. Lyra and Nate kept meeting. Sometimes during work, sometimes during breaks. They talked about simple things, music, stars, favorite colors. They shared food. Nate showed her a human drink called tea. She made him try a sweet fruit from her homeworld, almost choked on the taste, and she laughed so hard her eyes watered. They were different in many ways. She was sharp and fast. He was quiet and calm. They fit together in a strange way. One night, Lyra stood at the edge of the viewing deck. Stars stretched forever. Nate joined her, standing close. Ever think about what happens next? She asked. All the time, he said. Especially now. You're human. I'm Leroy. We don't even age the same. I know. We're not supposed to feel this. Maybe not. But here we are. She turned toward him. Doesn't that scare you? He smiled. Yes. But it also makes me feel alive. Lyra didn't reply. She just leaned her shoulder gently against his. Below them, the station moved quietly in space. Above, the stars blinked like slow heartbeats, and inside both of them, something new was growing, not forced, not chemical, yet not just from a serum, something real. Lyra woke up early, even before the station lights switched to day mode. Her thoughts were filled with Nate again, not just his face or voice, but the way he made her feel calm, steady, and warm inside. She never felt that kind of peace before. Not even on her home planet. She used to laugh at emotional things. Now she didn't laugh, she felt them. Later that morning, she went to the control sector to meet her team. She tried to focus, but her eyes kept drifting to the hallway where she usually saw Nate pass by. Her teammate Joran noticed and gave her a look. You've been different lately, he said. How? Lyra asked, pretending not to understand. Less. Sharp. More. Distant. Like your mind is flying somewhere else. Maybe I just needed a break. Joran leaned closer and whispered, They're watching you. The council. Lyra's chest tightened. Why? Because of him. She didn't answer. She already knew it. Ever since she started spending more time with Nate, others had started to whisper. And not just aliens, some humans too. The bond between species was not forbidden, but it was uncommon, especially when it involved emotional ties. That afternoon, she met Nate in the lower engine room. He was sitting against a wall, wiping sweat from his forehead. Rough shift? She asked. He looked up and smiled. You could say that. One of the circuits almost fried my hand. She sat beside him. You should wear better gloves.
Yes.
You should stop worrying so much, he teased. She looked at him quietly for a moment. They told me the council is watching us. He nodded. They told me too. Does that scare you a little? But not enough to walk away. Lyra looked at the floor. What if they force us to stop? Right. Then we don't stop in here, he said, tapping his chest. She smiled a little. Humans and their drama. He shrugged. You make me dramatic. They sat together in the hum of the engine room, sharing space and silence. It was the kind of silence that felt full, safe, and warm. Over the next few days, things changed. Around them. Not between them, but around them. Lyra noticed more eyes watching her, more reports being delayed, and even some missions being reassigned. Nate was given work in areas far from where she worked. Their meetings became shorter. Their conversations rushed. One day, she waited near the docking bay where Nate used to pass after work, but he didn't come. Hours passed, and she finally asked a nearby worker where he was. Transferred to the outer ring for repairs, the worker said. Council's order. Lyra's heart dropped. She rushed to the outer ring later that evening. The cold metal halls felt quiet and strange. When she finally found Nate, he was alone, fixing a sensor panel. He looked up surprised. Lyra? Ed. Are you doing here? You didn't tell me? She said. I didn't want to worry you. They moved you to keep us apart. I know, he said softly. Lyra stepped closer. This isn't fair. Nothing about this was ever going to be easy. But we didn't ask for this, she said. I didn't drink that serum to feel this way. I didn't plan it. Neither did I, Nate replied. Right. But now that it's here, I don't. Want to lose it? They stood facing each other, both feeling the same fear. Not fear of the council, but the fear of losing what they had found. Maybe we should talk to them, Lyra said. Tell them the truth. Do you think they'll understand? Maybe. Maybe not. But I don't want to hide like we're doing something wrong. Nate nodded. Then let's do it. Together. The next day, Lyra and Nate stood in front of the council room. The doors were tall, cold, and silent. Inside were leaders from many species, including humans and Lyrai. When the doors opened, the air felt thick. Commander Beller sat at the center. State your purpose. Lyra spoke first. I drank a human serum. It bonded my thoughts to a human. At first, it was confusion. Now it's something more. Nate stepped forward. We've grown close, not because of the serum anymore, but because we choose to be. The room stayed silent. We understand it's unusual, Lyra continued, but we're not a threat to the station. Or to diplomacy. We're just trying to understand something new. One of the human council members leaned forward. Do you believe your emotions are natural now? Nate answered yes. If ordered to separate. Lyra looked at Nate, then back at the council. We'll follow the order, but nothing can stop what we feel inside. There was another silence. Then Commander Beller said, We will discuss. You are dismissed for now. Outside the room, Nate exhaled. I've faced broken reactors with less stress. Lyra gave a small laugh. We might still be in trouble. Maybe, Nate said. But at least we faced it together. They didn't know what would happen next. But for now, they had each other. Not because of a serum, not because of chance, because of choice. The next 2 days passed in silence. Neither Lyra nor Nate heard anything from the council. Work continued on the station as normal, but something in the air felt heavy. Everyone could feel the tension. A few of Lyra's team members avoided her. Some looked at her with quiet curiosity. No one said anything to her face, but the whispers were growing louder. Nate stayed busy in the outer ring, working alone. Lyra missed their shared moments, their quiet talks, and their soft silences. The station felt colder without him. Then came the message. Report to Medical Bay for procedure review subject, Serum bond correction. It was signed by the station's senior medic and approved by the council. Lyra stood frozen. She reread it twice. Her hands were shaking. It wasn't a request, it was an order. The council wanted to end the bond. They were going to remove her feelings. Remove Nate from her thoughts, her heart, her mind. She went to the lab immediately, slamming the door open. Dr. Ellen looked up from her screen. They sent me this, Lyra said, holding out the message. Dr. Ellen nodded slowly. I heard. They approved a correction procedure. It will suppress the bond. Will it erase my memories? No. But it will dull the emotional part. You'll remember him, but not the same way. And if I don't agree, you'll be breaking council order. Lyra turned away, her chest tight. I don't want this, and don't do it. Lyra looked back. But they ordered the review, not the actual procedure. You still have a choice. Lyra left the lab without another word. She didn't go back to her quarters. She went straight to the outer ring. Nate was under a panel, fixing wiring. He looked surprised when she appeared. Lyra, she dropped to her knees beside him. They want to take it away? What? Bond, the feelings, everything. Nate sat up, brushing dust from his uniform. Are you going to let them? I don't know, she whispered. Part of me wants to stop feeling confused. Part of me wants things to go back to normal. He reached for her hand. And the other part? The other part doesn't want to lose you. They sat quietly. The soft hum of the station surrounded them like a blanket. I don't know how long this feeling will last, Lyra said, or if it's even meant to last, but every time I see you, I feel stronger. Like I've found something I didn't know I needed. Nate's eyes softened. Same here. What if they make you leave? She asked. Then I'll leave. Did not. Without saying goodbye, she looked at him for a long time. Then she said, maybe it's not about what they do. Maybe it's about what we choose. What do you choose? Lyra stood up. I choose to keep feeling. She walked away before her emotions took over. Back in her room, she canceled her appointment for the correction procedure. Then she sent a message to the council. I will not erase a connection I didn't ask for but now care about deeply. I accept the consequences. A reply came an hour later. Decision recorded. Disciplinary review pending. The words were cold, but Lyra felt a strange peace. For the first time in days, she slept without dreams. The next morning, Nate was waiting for her outside the greenhouse dome. He had something in his hands, a small metal pin shaped like a star. What's this? Lyra asked. It's something humans give when they want to remember someone, Nate said. I made it from spare parts. Lyra took the pin carefully. It's simple, but beautiful, like the feeling between us. She held the pin close. They might punish us, then let them, he said. But they can't take this. That day rumors spread across the station. Some said Lyra refused the procedure. Others said she was leaving the station with Nate. Some rumors were angry. Others were quiet and curious. But through it all, Lyra and Nate stayed calm. They didn't hide. They worked, ate, and walked together, not loudly. Just honestly, during the evening meal, Commander Beller entered the room. The chatter stopped. He walked straight to their table. Everyone expected a harsh warning. Maybe even an arrest. Instead, he said, the council has decided not to proceed with punishment. But you will be watched. Nate nodded. Understood. Beller turned to leave, then paused.
Right.
That doesn't mean they aren't worth protecting. And then he walked away. The room slowly returned to its normal sound. People whispered, but it didn't matter anymore. Nate and Lyra sat side by side, sharing a quiet moment. After dinner, they went to the viewing deck. Stars blinked across the black sky. Do you regret anything? Lyra asked. Only that I didn't talk to you sooner, Nate replied. She smiled. You humans and your perfect words. You aliens and your stubborn hearts. They laughed softly. Then, without warning, Lyra said, I didn't fall because of the serum. I stayed because of you. Nate didn't speak. He just reached out and gently held her hand, and under the light of the stars. Their bond stayed strong, not because of science, not because of rules or rebellion, but because they chose each other. Weeks passed. Life on the station moved forward. Missions were completed, new crew members arrived, and reports were filed like always. But for Lyra, everything felt new. It's not because of the serum anymore, not even because of Nate. It felt new because she had changed. She still worked hard. She still followed rules. But now, she also smiled more soft smiles that weren't meant to impress anyone. They were quiet smiles that came from something real inside her. Nate remained. In the outer ring, fixing broken systems and guiding young techs. Sometimes, when they had time, they would meet on the observation deck or near the water processors. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't need to. They were never loud. They were never public. But they were always together in some way. One day, Lyra's old friend Joran came to her with a message. The council wants to meet you both again, he said. Lyra sighed. What now? They want you to help? Help with what? Understanding. Connection, Joran said. Between species. Between minds. Lyra stared at him, surprised. They've seen how you've handled it, he continued. No drama, no rule breaking, just honesty. and now they want to study it, learn from it. Lyra didn't answer right away. That evening, she found Nate in the greenhouse. He's fixing a cracked pipe. "We're being asked to speak to the council," she said. He glanced up again. "Yes, but not for punishment. They want to understand." "What happened between us?" Nate smiled. "They want a love story? Maybe not love. Maybe just truth." Nate wiped his hands and stood. "Then let's tell them the truth." The next day, they stood once more in the tall council chamber. This time the air felt different, calmer. Less cold. Commander Beller spoke first. "You were watched closely. And what we saw was not chaos. It was control, growth, something balanced." Another council member leaned forward. "We want to begin a new project. One that studies emotional bonds across species. You will be the first case, not as test subjects, but as guides." Nate looked at Lyra. She gave a small nod. "We accept," Nate said. "Good," Beller replied. "The galaxy is changing. We must learn with it." After the meeting, Nate and Lyra walked side by side through the station's quiet halls. "We're part of something big now," Nate said. "We already were," Lyra replied. "We just didn't know it." Later that week, they were invited to speak at the station's education center. Young cadets from multiple planets sat in the room, curious and wide-eyed. Lyra stood in front of them and said, "I drank something meant for humans. It connected me to one. At first I was scared. I didn't understand the feeling, but instead of running, I followed it." Nate added, "Sometimes what starts as an accident becomes something worth protecting. Feelings don't always follow rules." A cadet raised their hand. "But how did you know it was real?" Lyra smiled. "Because it didn't fade." The room was silent for a moment. Then another cadet asked, "Are you still together?" Lyra and Nate looked at each other. Nate said, "Yes. Not always in the same room. It's not always in the same moment. But yes, we're together." After the session, as they walked back through the glass hallway that overlooked the stars, Lyra asked quietly, "Do you think we'll last?" Nate took a moment before answering, "I don't know. But I know I'll keep choosing you. When it's hard, even when we're far, even if we change." She looked out at the stars. "I don't want to go back to who I was before." "You won't," he said. "You've grown, so have you." They walked together in silence, but this silence felt strong, like it could hold the weight of time. In the following months, they helped lead research on emotional bonds across different species. Their names appeared in reports and journals. Other aliens who once avoided them began to ask quiet questions. Some even thanked them. But to Lyra and Nate, none of that was more important than their small moments laughing over a broken machine. Walking under station lights, sitting on the floor after long shifts, the serum that started it all was now sealed in a container deep in the lab, never used again. Not out of fear, but out of respect. They had learned something powerful. True connection doesn't need to be created by chemicals. Sometimes it finds you on its own, and sometimes it stays. One evening, Nate took out the star-shaped pin he had made before. He placed it on Lyra's table. "What's this for?" she asked. "I made a second one," he said. "This one's yours." She picked it up. "Thank you." He looked into her eyes. "Thank you for not walking away. You stepped closer. I never wanted to." And under the soft lights of the station, with no audience, no ceremony, and no pressure, they stood together, closer than they had ever been. Not because of a mistake, not because of a serum, but because something real had begun. And neither of them wanted it to end.